The cold was relentless, crawling through her bones and settling deep into her soul. Silver chains bit into her wrists and ankles, their unforgiving metal cutting faint furrows into her skin, yet still she refused to cry. The dungeon smelled of damp stone, blood, and despair, a scent she had learned to endure. Her hair, tangled and matted, fell across her face like a curtain hiding the truth of who she was. Her name, she had long forgotten it. Names were luxuries, and luxury had been taken from her the moment the pack had thrown her into this forsaken place. But her wolf had not forgotten. It stirred beneath her ribs, restless and fierce, whispering of freedom, of destiny, of a mate who would come. She clenched her fists around the cold iron, listening to the faint echoes of footsteps above. Footsteps, they were cautious, careful, but deliberate. Someone was coming. Her pulse quickened, not from fear, though there was plenty of that, but from the sharp spike of hope. She could feel it before she saw him, a presence unlike any other. Alpha, powerful, dangerous, commanding. Her wolf trembled, recognizing the scent before her eyes could. "Who's there?" she rasped, her voice hoarse from months of silence. The only reply was a muted grunt, the scrape of boots against stone, then the light. A torch flickered in the stairwell, shadows stretching and dancing along the walls, and there he was, tall, broad. Eyes like molten gold, sharp as the wolf that prowled her bloodline. The chains rattled as she tried to shift away, instinctively knowing that some deep, primal part of her had been awakened. His gaze met hers, and the world seemed to contract around them. Heat shot through her veins, a searing recognition that she had never felt before. The wolf snarled softly in her chest, warning, urging, demanding. Her lips parted, but no sound came. He could see it. He could feel it. A low rumble echoed in the dark, his voice thick and dangerous. So, this is the one they hide. He stepped closer, and every nerve in her body screamed both fear and longing. The chains clinked, a cruel reminder that freedom was still a dream. She wanted to scream, to reach for him, to collapse into the inevitable pull between them. But she didn't. She couldn't, not yet. Not until she was certain he wouldn't destroy her like all the others had. Yet even as she recoiled, she felt it, the undeniable bond trembling beneath her ribs, connecting them. Something ancient, inevitable, fierce, something that whispered, "You are mine, whether you know it or not." And then, as footsteps echoed closer and shadows danced with the flickering torchlight, she realized this night, this moment would change everything, but for now, she was still a prisoner in chains. The wolf growled in anticipation, the air thick with destiny and danger. The night air was thick with mist, curling around the fortress walls like a silent predator. Kale's boots crunched against the gravel path, each step deliberate, echoing the authority he carried as alpha. His mind was sharp, focused on diplomacy, or at least the semblance of it. Rival packs were delicate things, alliances fragile, mistakes lethal, and yet something pulled at the edges of his focus, tugging at a part of him he hadn't acknowledged in years. The faint, almost imperceptible whimpering drew his attention. He froze, nostrils flaring as he inhaled the cold night air. A scent, faint, frightened, restrained, lingered at the edges of the fortress gates. The hairs along his neck rose. "Who's there?" he demanded, his voice low, commanding. Not many dared defy him. The wind carried no reply, only the subtle echo of movement below the stone steps. Kale's wolf stirred within, alert, restless, sensing something extraordinary hidden in the shadows. He descended slowly, torch in hand, the flickering flame casting long shadows along the stone walls. The whispers of fear, the faint clink of metal, chains. His pulse quickened, not from danger alone, but from a premonition he couldn't name. "Show yourself," he said again, voice sharper this time. The echo of his words rolled across the dungeon's depths, unanswered except for the nervous shuffle of a figure retreating into shadow. Then he saw her. Chained, pale in the torchlight, eyes wide and golden in the flickering shadows. She froze, instinctively shrinking back, but even from the distance, Kale felt it, the pull, the heat in his chest, the rush of recognition that stole his breath for a moment too long. His wolf growled low in his throat, instinct screaming what his mind could barely comprehend. She was his mate, yet something in her stance told him caution was necessary. She didn't move closer, she didn't reach out. Instead, she remained still, wary, as if testing whether he would harm her or protect her. Cale's hand flexed around the torch, his voice softened slightly, almost a whisper against the dungeon walls. "You're not safe here." Her gaze didn't waver, but there was a flicker of something else: curiosity, defiance, maybe even hope. The chains rattled under her tension, a reminder that freedom had yet to come. A deep, dangerous silence hung between them, broken only by the distant howl of wolves in the forest, and in that moment, Cale knew that nothing about this night, or this girl, would be ordinary. The pull of fate tightened around him, and for the first time in years, he felt the stirrings of something he had long denied, a bond that could not be broken. The dungeon smelled of damp stone, metal, and something faintly sweet that shouldn't have been there. Cale's eyes never left the girl chained in the shadows, her golden gaze fixed on him with a mixture of fear and defiance. Every instinct in him, the wolf, the alpha, the man, throbbed with recognition. She was his mate, yet he could not say it aloud. Not here, not yet. Politics, pack expectations, rivals lurking. Everything warned against claiming what was already his by blood and fate. She shifted slightly, chains clinking, and Cale caught the flash of her scarred arms. She had survived something monstrous, something cruel and still. She radiated power he could feel even through the thick stone walls. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, her voice trembling just enough to make his heart ache. I don't belong to anyone." Cale's jaw tightened. "No," he said softly, almost to himself, "you don't belong to anyone, but you shouldn't be here either." His torch flickered, casting moving shadows that danced across her face. He noticed the way her lips quivered, not from cold, but from the tension she was holding in every muscle of her body. Her wolf stirred beneath her ribs, restless, wild, and it hummed in perfect sync with his own. Cale felt the bond flare in his chest, a heat that scorched and demanded. He took a careful step closer, ignoring the warning bells in his head, ignoring the political consequences he had rehearsed 1,000 times. "You feel it too," he murmured, his voice low, husky with restrained emotion. "The bond, don't lie to me." Her gaze darted away, refusing to confirm. Pride or survival instinct, he couldn't tell which. But the faint quiver in her jaw betrayed her. She could not hide it. Cale's wolf growled, urging him forward, urging him to break the distance, to claim her, to tell her what the bond screamed in every nerve of his being. But he stopped, he would wait, and he would protect her, whatever it took. "Tell me your name," he said, softer now, leaning against the cold stone wall. His eyes searched hers for a flicker of trust. She swallowed, chains rattling as she drew in a shaky breath. "Luna," she whispered. Something in the air shifted. The name hung between them like a fragile promise. Cale felt it settle in his chest, a spark igniting into something that demanded more. Desire, protection, possession, and yet, before he could move closer, a shadow passed across the upper corridor, footsteps echoing ominously. Luna's head snapped toward it, fear flashing, and Cale realized they were not alone. The bond flared hotter, tighter, warning him that danger lurked, and that claiming her would not be simple. Not by a long shot. Fate had brought them together, but the world was already closing in. The hall smelled of burning torches and polished wood, the air thick with the chatter of the pack. Cale's boots echoed on the stone floor as he entered the gathering, Luna's presence still vivid in his mind. Every instinct in him screamed to find her, to pull her close, to claim her as his mate. But duty, danger, politics, everything pressed against that desire. He stepped forward, voice steady, controlled, addressing the council and the pack who had gathered to witness the rare assembly. "This girl, she is just a prisoner," he announced, eyes deliberately avoiding Luna's golden gaze as she was brought into the room under guard. Chains clinked against her wrists, drawing every eye in the hall. A murmur rose, curiosity and speculation buzzing like a hive. Luna's chest tightened, the words hit her like a blade. Just a prisoner. The mate bond that had flared so vividly in the darkness moments before seemed to sizzle, restrained by Cale's denial. Her wolf growled low, furious, twisting inside her as if it could tear the room apart for him. She bit her lip to keep from shouting, from crying, from revealing the truth. Kale's tone was measured, authoritative, leaving no room for argument. She belongs to no one, any claims otherwise are unfounded. His eyes flicked briefly to the council, then back to her. He could feel her, trembling, aching to respond. His hand itched to brush the stray hair from her face, to let the heat of the bond speak in the silence. But he didn't, the pack whispered, suspicion stirring. Some eyes narrowed at Luna, some widened in awe. They sensed something dangerous, forbidden. But Kale's rejection painted over it with clarity and authority. No one would question him, no one would dare. Luna's chest heaved. Her heart pounded against the chains, aching with the need to break free, to shout the truth. He is mine. I am his mate. But she stayed silent, her pride and survival warring with the bond that screamed inside her. Kale's wolf shifted, restless, growling, straining at his control. He could almost hear Luna's wolf echoing the warning, the call, the pull that demanded they acknowledge each other. He clenched his fists, suppressing the roar of need, the magnetic pull, and forced himself to step back. Take her back to the dungeon, Kale commanded finally, his voice cold, decisive. She is nothing more than a prisoner here. Remember that. Chains rattled as Luna was led away, her golden eyes locked briefly on Kale's, burning with accusation, confusion, and longing. She wanted to hate him, she tried, but her wolf trembled at the distance between them, and a bond stronger than fear whispered one undeniable truth. He had rejected her outwardly, but he had not rejected her heart. And that, she realized, was even more dangerous. The pack might see a prisoner, but the bond between them had been ignited, and nothing could extinguish it. The hallways of the fortress were quieter now, lit by the soft flicker of torches. Luna's chains still bit into her wrists, but her mind was far from the ache of metal. Whispers had begun circulating among the guards, low murmurs that slithered through the corridors like snakes. They spoke of her not as a prisoner, but as something. Different, something dangerous, something with a name she had long forgotten. Kale walked the upper gallery, his eyes sharp, scanning, every sense alert. The whispers reached him too, carried on the wind, tangled in the murmurs of the pack. They say she's not ordinary. One guard said under his breath, barely audible, some claim. She is the last of the royal bloodline, the daughter of the fallen pack. Kale froze mid-step, heart hammering. His wolf stirred, restless, growling softly. He had been careful, measured, keeping the rejection intact. But these fragments, these hints of her lineage made the stakes higher than ever. Rejecting her outwardly had been a shield, one that now seemed increasingly fragile. Luna, seated in the dungeon, felt the subtle shift in the air. Guards who had avoided her glances now lingered, curiosity painted on their faces. She closed her eyes briefly, suppressing the shiver that ran down her spine. Her past, long buried and wrapped in shame and fear, was creeping back into the world, and Kale was already sensing it, whether he realized it or not. Her wolf snarled softly in warning. Danger was near, not physical danger, but the kind that could unravel everything she had survived. Kale's name burned in her thoughts. If he knew, if the Alpha sensed the bloodline within her, would he still reject her publicly, or would the walls protecting them both crumble? Kale's golden gaze scanned the dungeon corridors from the gallery above. He saw the subtle movements, the silent communications, the tension. Luna wasn't ordinary. The bond pulsing between them, undeniable even now, hinted at something extraordinary hidden beneath the fear and chains. And the realization made him both furious and terrified. Furious at the pack for keeping secrets from him, terrified at what she could become if left in the wrong hands. A distant howl cut through the night, carrying over the fortress walls. Luna's ears pricked instinctively, and Kale's jaw clenched. Something, or someone, was watching. Her lineage, the whispers, the bonded, all hinted at a storm that was approaching, one neither of them could ignore. And in the quiet tension of the night, both Wolf and Alpha knew one truth. The moment she had been found was only the beginning. The past would not remain buried, and the bond, stronger than fear, would pull them toward a destiny neither could escape. The shadows were thickening, and with them came secrets, danger, and a pull neither could resist. The dungeon was quieter than usual, the silence almost suffocating. Luna's chains clinked softly as she shifted, her golden eyes fixed on the faint torchlight flickering along the walls. The bond hummed beneath her skin, insistent, impossible to ignore. Every nerve, every heartbeat screamed his name, Cale. Cale returned, stepping cautiously into the shadows, his silhouette framed by the torchlight. He stopped a few feet away, letting the silence stretch between them. His wolf growled low, restless, urging him forward, warning him of the fire simmering in her gaze. She was his mate. The truth flared in every fiber of his being, yet he forced himself to hold back. Duty, politics, pack rules. Everything screamed that this moment had to be contained. You came back, she whispered, her voice trembling despite the brittle edge of her pride. Why? Cale's golden eyes softened, but only slightly, masking the storm underneath. Because you shouldn't be alone, because I can't leave you like this. His words were calm, measured, but his chest burned with unspoken need. He stepped closer, just enough for the warmth of his presence to brush against hers. Her wolf stirred violently, a growl vibrating in her chest. She had wanted to deny it, to suppress it, but the pull between them was too strong. Her hands itched toward him, even as the chains held her back. You shouldn't, she murmured, almost pleading with herself. I'm dangerous. I'm not safe. Cale's jaw tightened, frustration flashing in his amber gaze. I don't care. The words were sharp, yet threaded with something deeper. Possessiveness, desperation, an unwillingness to be denied what was rightfully his. He reached out, fingers brushing against hers, feeling the heat of her skin through the cold iron. The bond flared violently in that instant, a firestorm of emotion neither could control. Desire, recognition, longing. It all collided in a searing wave that left them both gasping. Cale could hear her wolf screaming, clawing at the restraint, and his own wolf howled in response. Luna's breath hitched, and for a moment everything else, the chains, the dungeon, the looming danger, faded into nothing. Only him, only the bond, only the undeniable truth that neither could ignore. And yet, the moment was broken as footsteps echoed in the corridor above. Both tense, hearts pounding, they realized the world outside their small circle of heat and longing would never allow this, not yet, but the pull remained relentless, undeniable, and dangerous. Every step toward one another was forbidden, but every heartbeat screamed they could not resist the inevitable. The night air outside the fortress was sharp, carrying the scent of pine, damp earth, and danger. Cale stood at the edge of the courtyard, muscles tense, ears straining. Whispers had grown louder throughout the pack. Someone else knew about her, someone dangerous. Then he saw him. A rival alpha, tall, dark, exuding power and menace, stepped from the shadows, flanked by his own pack. His eyes, sharp and calculating, locked on Luna, who was being escorted under guard in the dungeon courtyard. A smirk tugged at his lips. So this is the girl, he called, voice-carrying, taunting. The last of the royal bloodline. She could secure more power than you could ever dream of, Cale. Cale's jaw clenched. Every instinct screamed to protect her, but the rival's claim was not empty talk. Luna's lineage, whispered rumors of royalty and prophecy, made her a prize, and not just for him. Luna's golden eyes widened, chains rattling as she shifted under the guard's grip. She could feel Cale's tension, the way his wolf prowled beneath his skin, the way every muscle in his body was ready to strike. She wanted to tell him she could handle it, that she was not a pawn, but fear and caution held her voice back. The rival alpha stepped closer, his presence radiating menace. I claim her, by blood, by right, by power, he declared. His words were sharp, deliberate, a challenge that burned in the air between them. She belongs with me. Cale's hand itched toward her, but he kept it at his side, hiding his rage. She belongs nowhere but with herself. He said evenly, voice low, lethal. But even as he spoke, the mate bond flared hotter in his chest, warning him that he could not wait forever. The moment to protect her was now, or lose her entirely. The rival laughed, a cold, mocking sound. Alpha Cale, always so noble. But can you protect her when your own pack whispers doubts, when your politics trap you in chains as strong as hers? Luna's heart raced. Her wolf growled, frantic, warning her. The pull between her and Cale surged, insistent, a dangerous tether neither could ignore. She saw the tension in Cale's jaw, the fire in his eyes, and knew he would fight, no matter the cost. The rival's eyes flicked to the chains that bound her, a cruel reminder that she could be taken at any moment. Cale's voice dropped thick with warning. "Do not lay a hand on her. I will not allow it." A hush fell over the courtyard. Wolves shifted, noses twitching, instincts alert. The stage was set. The rival had made his claim, and Cale had no choice but to confront not only him, but the growing storm of destiny, desire, and danger surrounding Luna. The pull between them, stronger than chains or threats, screamed that nothing, not rival, not pack, not fate, could stop what was already coming. The moon hung low over the fortress, casting silver light across the courtyard and the dense forest beyond. Shadows stretched long and wild, blending with the faint mist that curled around the stone walls. Luna sat on the cold ground, chains rattling faintly as she watched the moonlight dance across her pale skin. Her wolf stirred beneath her ribs, restless, sensing the power she had long buried, power that was beginning to stir again. Cale stepped beside her, cautious yet unyielding. His golden eyes scanned the courtyard and the surrounding woods, alert to every movement, every whisper of wind. "The bond is stronger than ever tonight," he murmured, his voice low and tense. "Something about this moon, it awakens her." Luna swallowed, feeling the heat pulse through her chest. She tried to pull her wolf down to keep it quiet, but the ancient energy thrummed beneath her skin, responding to the full moon. It was wild, powerful, dangerous. She had kept it hidden for years, afraid of what it might do if unleashed. Cale reached out instinctively, hand hovering just above hers, drawn by the bond that screamed between them. "Luna, don't fight it," he whispered. "Your power, it's part of who you are, and part of what makes you mine." Her golden eyes met his, fear and desire warring within her. She trembled as the chains that bound her began to glow faintly in the moonlight, the metal responding to her hidden energy. Her wolf growled, pushing her forward, demanding release, testing the limits of her control. Then it happened. A surge of light pulsed from her hands, glowing with a reddish hue, casting dancing shadows across the courtyard. The air hummed with energy, thick and electric, and Cale's chest tightened, both from awe and a warning that danger lurked in every ripple of her power. The rival Alpha's name surfaced in her mind, along with visions of the threats he posed. Cale's hand brushed hers instinctively, grounding her, connecting them. "You're more than a prisoner," he said firmly, his voice carrying over the growing roar of her awakening. "You're a force, and together we will protect what is ours." Her wolf roared in agreement, the bond between them pulsing like wildfire. Chains rattled violently as her energy flared, light spilling into the darkness, illuminating both her fear and her strength. The rival Alpha, lurking in the distance, would see soon enough that she was no ordinary prisoner, and Cale was no Alpha to be trifled with. The moon bore witness to the awakening of power, the recognition of the bond, and the undeniable truth that fate had already begun its reckoning. The chains that had held her for months felt heavier than ever as Cale's shadow fell over her. The torchlight flickered across his sharp features, and his golden eyes burned with a mixture of fury and longing. Luna's heart hammered in her chest, a wild, insistent rhythm that echoed the pulse of the bond between them. Her wolf roared in anticipation, straining against the centuries of fear that had kept her caged. Cale's hands moved deliberately, fingers brushing against the cold metal, feeling the tremble of her energy under his touch. "I can't leave you like this," he growled, voice low and dangerous. The words carried both warning and promise. "Not to them, not to anyone." With a swift motion born of desperation and resolve, he snapped the first chain. Metal clanged against the stone floor, and Luna's breath caught. Freedom was closer than it had been in months, and yet the rush of emotions, fear, relief, desire, threatened to overwhelm her. She could feel every pulse of his wolf, every tug of the bond, pulling her toward him as if gravity itself had shifted. "Cale," she whispered, but he silenced her with a sharp glance. "Not yet." Patience had always been a luxury neither of them could afford. The second chain fell, then the third, each link breaking a barrier not just of metal, but of fear and isolation. Luna stepped forward instinctively, her bare feet touching the cold stone, every nerve alive with anticipation. Her wolf prowled, aware of the surge of Kale's power beside her, the raw heat of their bond igniting. Kale's hand found hers warm and grounding, and the world seemed to narrow to that single, searing connection. "You are mine," he said softly, and the words weren't just a claim. They were a promise, a shield against the danger creeping at the edges of the courtyard, against the rival Alpha's schemes, against the uncertainty of her past. Luna's chest swelled with emotion she hadn't allowed herself to feel in months. Desire, trust, fear, and hope collided, and for the first time, she let herself lean into him, into the bond, into the undeniable pull that had haunted her since the first moment he entered her cell. But the moment was electric and fragile. Shadows stirred in the corners of the fortress, whispers of betrayal and looming attack threading through the night. The rival Alpha would not remain idle, and Kale's pack, some loyal, some questioning, watched, waiting for their chance to strike. And yet, as their hands intertwined and the chains lay shattered at their feet, one truth blazed brighter than any threat. Neither chains nor rivals could sever what destiny had bound together. Freedom had been claimed, hearts ignited, and the storm was coming. The pack council chamber was tense, the air thick with the scent of tension and challenge. Kale stood at the center, Luna's hand tight in his, chains long since shattered but the weight of authority and expectation pressing down on them both. His golden eyes scanned the council, noting the subtle shifts, the narrowed gazes, the whispered doubts that had begun even before she was freed. "You've acted recklessly, Kale." One council member spat, voice sharp, slicing through the murmurs of the room. "Freeing a prisoner with ties to a rival pack. Do you realize the risk you've taken?" Kale's jaw clenched, but his grip on Luna's hand never wavered. "I took the only risk that mattered," he said evenly. Leaving her chained, letting her bloodline fall into the wrong hands, that would have been the true danger. The council murmured again, doubt rippling like water over stone. Kale could feel the tension, the balance of loyalty teetering precariously. Some wolves still followed him unquestioningly, others were whispering promises of allegiance to the rival Alpha. Then the first strike came, figuratively but sharply. One of the pack's lieutenants stepped forward, voice dripping with malice. "You've endangered all of us. If she is truly of royal blood, the rival Alpha will come for her, and Kale, you've made it easy for him." Luna's golden eyes flicked to him, fear and anger mingling in their depths. Her wolf growled low, warning, restless, but Kale's steady presence calmed her just enough. He knew the storm had begun, and the only way to survive it was together. Outside, the distant howl of the rival Alpha's pack cut through the night air, carrying over the walls of the fortress like a promise of impending war. Kale's chest tightened with both anger and anticipation. "If anyone lays a hand on her," he said, voice dropping to a lethal growl, "they will answer to me." A ripple of tension passed through the council. Kale's word was law to some, defiance to others, and the divide was clear. Loyalties were tested, fear and ambition clashed with duty and respect, and in the shadows of the chamber, Luna felt it too. The weight of her own power, the pull of the mate bond, the rising threat that no chain, no council, no rival could contain. Kale's hand brushed her fingers in a subtle, grounding reassurance. "We face this together," he murmured, and the heat of his gaze seared into her, a silent promise that no betrayal would sever their bond. Outside, the rival Alpha prepared to strike, the pack's loyalty fractured, and destiny's storm edged ever closer. Kale and Luna were on the brink, and there would be no turning back. The night erupted into chaos. Torches flared along the fortress walls, casting flickering shadows over the courtyard as the rival Alpha's pack surged forward. Wolves snarled, claws scraping stone, and the air thrummed with the scent of blood, smoke, and raw, desperate power. Luna stood beside Kale, her chest heaving, eyes glowing faintly with the red, hued energy that had awakened under the moon. Her wolf prowled beneath her skin, urging release, demanding strength, craving vengeance. "Stay close," Kale warned, voice low, deadly, as he shifted into his alpha form mid-step, his fur bristling, eyes golden and fierce. His presence was magnetic, commanding, and the rival Alpha faltered for a fraction of a heartbeat, just long enough. Luna didn't hesitate. The moment of fear that had held her in chains for months evaporated, replaced by a surge of power that made her whole being hum. Flames of energy radiated from her hands, coursing through the courtyard, knocking back rival wolves, forcing even the seasoned fighters to pause. Her golden eyes met Kale's, a silent vow passing between them. Together, they were unstoppable. The rival alpha snarled, advancing, eyes gleaming with malice. "You think you can protect her?" he hissed, claws digging into the stone. "She is mine by right, Kale," Kale growled, stepping forward, teeth bared. "She is mine by bond, and you will not touch her." Luna felt the bond flare violently, pulling at her very essence. She raised her hands, and a wave of energy surged outward, scattering attackers like leaves in a storm. Wolves yelped and scrambled, the rival alpha caught off guard. She could feel Kale's presence beside her, their hearts and power entwined, an unstoppable force amplified by the bond that neither chains nor rivals could break. But the battle was far from over. The rival alpha lunged, claws aimed for her. Luna's wolf leapt within, surging with instinctive power. A flash of light, a roar that shook the night, and the rival alpha was thrown back, dazed and defeated temporarily. But the effort drained her, leaving her vulnerable. Kale didn't hesitate. He closed the distance in a heartbeat, shifting back into human form, and caught her in his arms. "You're safe," he whispered fiercely, lips brushing her ear. "No one will take you from me." Her chest heaved, not from fear but relief, the bond pulsing between them like wildfire. The rival alpha retreated, defeated for now, but the taste of victory was bittersweet. Their enemies had been driven back, but the world outside, the pack politics, and the threat of rivals remained. For the first time in months, Luna felt true freedom, not just of body but of heart, and the realization struck her like a tidal wave. With Kale by her side, nothing could hold them back. The battlefield was quiet now, the echoes of the fight fading into the night. Smoke curled into the sky, mingling with the silver glow of the moon, and the scent of blood and fire lingered in the air. Luna stood beside Kale, her chest rising and falling as she drew in deep, steadying breaths. The chains that had once bound her were gone, shattered on the stone floor, leaving only the bond that linked them, powerful, undeniable, and unbreakable. Kale's golden eyes softened as he stepped closer, letting the tension of the battle fade from his muscles. "You're mine," he murmured, voice low, intimate, carrying the weight of every unspoken promise, every fear overcome, every danger faced together, forever. Luna's golden gaze met his, and for the first time she allowed herself to believe it. To feel it, the fear that had gripped her for years melted away, replaced with warmth, safety, and the wild, intoxicating pull of their mate bond. Her wolf purred within, entwined with his, a symphony of loyalty, passion, and destiny. I'm yours," she whispered, voice trembling but steady, "if you want me." Kale's hands cupped her face, thumbs brushing across the faint scars that marked her past, the evidence of every trial she had endured. "I don't just want you," he said, voice thick with emotion. "I claim you. No rival, no counsel, no chain could ever change that. You are mine, Luna, my mate, my heart, my soul." A gentle warmth spread through her as he pressed his forehead to hers, the bond between them flaring with radiant power. The energy that had once been dangerous and untamed now pulsed with harmony, as if the universe itself approved of their union. Luna closed her eyes, letting the sensation wash over her, letting herself finally be whole. Around them, the pack stirred cautiously. The rival alpha had been driven back, the threat neutralized, and even the council seemed to recognize the inevitability of what had been sealed. Kale's leadership, tempered by courage and loyalty, had earned their respect, and no one dared challenge the bond that radiated so strongly between them. Kale leaned down, lips brushing hers in a kiss that was both claim and celebration, fierce yet tender. Every chain shattered, every danger faced, every trial endured had led them to this moment. Luna's hands rose, resting against his chest, her heart full, her wolf finally at peace. Under the silver moonlight, with the battlefield behind them and destiny sealed, Luna was no longer a prisoner. She was a mate, a queen of her own power, and Kale's forever. The night was quiet, but inside their bond roared, unbreakable, eternal, and gloriously theirs.